The doctors had already said there was nothing more to be done. The hospital hallway smelled of antiseptic and quiet defeat as 8-year-old Lily Harper lay motionless in a wheelchair that cost more than most people's cars. Her legs rested like fragile porcelain, untouched by strength, untouched by hope. Specialists flown in from 3 different countries had examined her. Billionaire-backed foundations had offered cutting-edge treatments. Her medical file was thicker than a novel, stamped with words no parent ever wants to read: irreversible damage, low probability, prepare for lifelong paralysis. And yet, the miracle that would shake everyone did not come from a private jet or a marble-floored clinic. It came from a tired single father with grease on his hands and stubborn love in his heart. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of love to do what money cannot, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Lily had once been the fastest runner in her second-grade class. She loved yellow sneakers and insisted on racing the sunset every evening in the park behind their small rental house in Ohio. Her father, Daniel Harper, used to pretend he couldn't catch her, collapsing dramatically into the grass while she laughed so hard she could barely breathe. Life was simple back then. Daniel worked long shifts as an auto mechanic, coming home with sore muscles but a full heart. Lily's mother, Rebecca, worked remotely as a graphic designer, filling their home with color and music. They weren't rich, but they were rich in ordinary happiness. Then the accident happened on a rain-slick highway one November night. A delivery truck lost control. Metal screamed against metal. Rebecca survived with minor injuries. Lily did not wake up for 2 days. When she finally opened her eyes, her small fingers gripped Daniel's hand, but her legs did not move. Not when she tried. Not when the nurses encouraged her. Not when Daniel whispered that everything would be okay. The months that followed were a blur of hospital rooms, consultations, and whispered conversations that stopped when Daniel entered the room. The diagnosis was severe spinal cord trauma. The best surgeons operated. The most advanced rehabilitation centers accepted her case. A wealthy philanthropist who had heard Rebecca's online plea funded experimental therapy abroad. They traveled to clinics that looked more like 5-star resorts than medical facilities. Machines hummed. Specialists in tailored suits spoke in cautious optimism. But every time Lily tried to wiggle her toes, nothing happened. Money burned like paper in a fire, and still her legs lay silent. Rebecca began to crumble under the weight of hope repeatedly raised and crushed. She blamed herself for suggesting the family drive that night. She blamed the rain. She blamed fate. Daniel blamed nothing. He simply worked more hours, sold his truck, and learned medical terms he never imagined needing to know. At night, when Rebecca cried in the shower so Lily wouldn't hear, Daniel sat beside his daughter's bed reading anatomy books borrowed from the library. The turning point did not arrive with applause or headlines. It came quietly one evening when Daniel noticed something small. Lily was watching children play soccer outside the rehabilitation center window. Her fingers twitched in rhythm as if her body still remembered movement. It wasn't her legs that moved, but there was a spark in her eyes, frustration, yes, but also longing. Daniel began to question something the specialists had never truly addressed. They had focused on surgeries, on electrical stimulation devices, on expensive regenerative therapies. But no one had spent hours simply reconnecting Lily's brain to the idea of walking in a way she understood. Daniel was not a doctor. He was a mechanic. He fixed engines by understanding how parts spoke to each other. He wondered if the body could be approached the same way, patiently, consistently, refusing to accept silence as the final answer. He started small. Every morning before school lessons in the hospital classroom, he would sit Lily upright and guide her through vivid mental exercises. He described running through their park, the feeling of grass under her shoes, the wind pushing against her knees. He massaged her legs gently, not with medical precision but with fatherly persistence. At night, instead of watching television, he moved her limbs carefully, whispering stories of strength into muscles that had forgotten their purpose. Doctors were skeptical. Some called it false hope. Others gently warned him not to exhaust her. But Daniel saw something they did not. He saw flickers, tiny shifts in muscle tension when Lily laughed, a slight resistance when he lifted her foot. He researched neuroplasticity obsessively. He learned that the brain could sometimes reroute signals around damaged areas if given relentless stimulation. He built a simple harness system in their garage using parts from discarded car seats and suspension straps. It looked crude compared to the polished machines in elite clinics, but it allowed Lily to stand upright safely at home. The first time he lifted her into it, her arms clung to his shoulders, fear and excitement tangled together. Weeks turned into months. Daniel reduced his work hours, risking financial ruin. Rebecca watched in silence, torn between admiration and terror that hope would shatter again. There were days Lily cried in frustration. Days her legs felt like stone. Days Daniel questioned himself in the dark. But every morning, he tried again. One afternoon, something happened that no specialist had predicted. As Daniel supported her in the harness, describing a race to the kitchen table, Lily's right knee trembled. It was subtle, almost invisible. Daniel froze, afraid to breathe. Then it happened again, a small, undeniable contraction. Rebecca, standing in the doorway, saw it too. She covered her mouth, unsure if she dared believe. From that moment, progress was painfully slow but real. The twitch became a lift. The lift became a shaky step within the harness. Daniel documented everything, sending updates to doctors who had once dismissed his approach. Some began to reconsider. Therapists adjusted her program to incorporate his persistence rather than replace it. The day Lily took her first unsupported step was not in a grand hospital wing. It was in their modest living room, sunlight spilling across worn wooden floors. Daniel stood inches away, hands hovering but not touching. Lily's face was pale with concentration. Rebecca knelt on the other side, whispering encouragement through tears. Lily shifted her weight. Her left foot moved forward. For one suspended heartbeat, she stood on her own. Then she took a step. Rebecca collapsed onto the floor, sobbing in a way that shook her entire body. Not delicate tears, but years of fear breaking apart all at once. Daniel caught Lily as she wobbled, both of them laughing and crying in disbelief. The news spread quietly through their community. Not because a billionaire funded a miracle, but because a father refused to accept a period where others had placed one. Doctors later admitted that while advanced treatments laid groundwork, it was relentless, consistent stimulation, emotional and physical, that awakened dormant pathways. Lily's recovery was not magical or instant. She still needed therapy. She still faced challenges. But she walked into her elementary school months later with braces and determination, greeted by applause from classmates who had only known her wheelchair. Daniel never claimed he did what doctors couldn't. He said he simply did what a father must. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment now to like, share, and comment below. Stories like Lily's deserve to travel far beyond this screen. And before we end, tell us in the comments what word gives you strength during hard times. Because sometimes the greatest breakthroughs don't arrive in private jets or billion-dollar laboratories. Sometimes they begin in a small garage, with a stubborn parent who refuses to let love sit still. And as Rebecca watched her daughter walk across the park once more, chasing the sunset in those same yellow sneakers, she realized something no medical report could measure: hope is not built by wealth. It is built by hands that refuse to let go.